What would you need to do to start dreaming again? We're all conscious creators. Why shoot for the moon when you can shoot for the stars? Because
what's in your heart is there for a reason. What you are here to do has been planted in your heart, that vision, that desire, that seed, and you got to trust it.
What if you had a thought, an idea, a concept, something that takes you from where you are to where you want to be, and then you share it with the world to make more impact and more income? Because I'm telling you, welcome to Coaching by the Beach, where we help you materialize the vision you have for your business, your life, your family, and the world. I'm Trevor McGregor, Master Coach.
And I'm Leesa McGregor, international best-selling author, speaker, and entrepreneur. Together, we've built an 8-figure empire, and we've broken free from the ordinary to lead lives of extraordinary freedom, impact, and fulfillment. And now we're here to guide you to do the same.
If you've been searching for more success, more wealth, and more freedom, tune in and let's embark on this journey together. We are so blessed and grateful to be here with you today, as we've got one heck of an episode for you where we're going to talk about impact and how you can go out there and make the world a better place. I'm Coach Trevor McGregor here with my beautiful wife, Leesa Impact McGregor. Leesa, how are you doing?
Really good. I've been so excited for this show.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm excited because this is that show where people really can add to what we talked about in the last show. If you go back to the previous episode, we talked about what is your why? Why is it important to get crystal clear on who you are, what you want, why you want it, and why you even get out of bed each morning? And this is going to be a stack on top of that as Leesa and I take you through something that's near and dear to our hearts, which is really about impact. So Leesa, tell us a little bit about what that word means to you and how we embody what we do on a daily basis ourselves and with our clients to create more impact in the world.
Thank you so much, honey. I think this started years ago, again, 15 years ago when we met. We knew there was something bigger for us. We knew that we wanted more out of life. And for our listeners, this show is really, this is where my heart is. This is our life's work. And I want to really inspire you, especially if you're feeling like you don't know what that big picture is, or you know you want to make a difference in the world, but you're not sure how to do it. If you're frustrated with the way the world is right now and you wish you could do something, this episode is for you. So maybe we'll talk a little bit about our story. I'll share my personal story and sort of where I came to come up with this idea that I wanted to make a difference. And, I think back, I was actually thinking about this weekend when we were at the beach with our son. And when I was younger, I realized that I was always making things and creating things. In fact, by the time I was 12, I remember saying that I had like 6 businesses. I had like a lemonade stand, I had a candy business, I had all of these little businesses, and I was always wanting to make something. And then I thought, well, what about selling it? So I started again, a little candy store just outside of my house, and lemonade stand, Girl Guide cookies. And I got to the point where I was even writing stories and going door to door and selling them. So I realized that from a young age, I was a born entrepreneur. And so growing up, I kind of always had this idea, and I'd seen entrepreneurs, my grandmother running her motel, and I was like, okay, I want to do something. And I knew I wanted to be in business. And it was interesting at the time because when I graduated from high school, it was like I was looking at other people and kind of seeing what they wanted to do. And it was like, I want to be a nurse or I want to be a teacher. And for some reason, I wanted to be a businesswoman. And when I think back, I realized like my soul had some direction there. It was like, okay, you want to do something big, like you really want to do something for the world. And so, being a go-getter, I went out there, I got my university degree, and I got an opportunity. I landed an opportunity right out of college. And it was something that I didn't know at the time was going to completely change my life. I started working with a technology startup, and when we started the business, it was very much just a wild idea at the time. And I thought, gosh, how are we going to pull this off, right? And I was tasked with growing the company. I was tasked with doing the business development, creating the marketing plan, doing all of that. And what I can say when I look back at that journey, what really got us to success was having a deeper purpose behind what we were doing. Now, just to kind of give you an idea, I was kind of terrified at the time. I was in my young 20s, and within 2 years, I'd single-handedly created this multi-million-dollar company, and I never thought that was possible. That wasn't really in the cards for me, even though I was a high achiever. And when I look back to why did we make the money? We made the money because we had a deeper mission and purpose. So we developed this technology that was designed for training vehicle drivers. And I won't go into too much detail, but basically the technology was designed to save lives. And so we realized that once we were selling this technology into big transportation agencies, we were making a difference. We were actually saving lives. Like there was a genuine impact there. And I realized that had made, that left an imprint with me. It was like, okay, do something that makes money and makes a difference. That's kind of where it started for me. And so after building the technology company and, cashing out of that and really I went into the corporate world and I started doing corporate work and consulting, but I was really starting to question myself at that time. And I talked about this in previous episodes. And I started really asking that question, if I'm supposedly successful, if I've made all this money and I've traveled the world and I've done all the things that I was supposed to do in my career, why do I feel unfulfilled? Mm-hmm. And so that led me to, crying on my yoga mat in the evenings going, oh my gosh, like what else is there? Is there more than this? And I remember being in this yoga studio at the time and there was a community in this yoga studio and they would talk about being of service, being of contribution. And I realized that had also left an imprint. So I was like, okay, I want to do something meaningful. I want to impact the world. And so I started writing about this in my journal. And when I finally made the leap from corporate to starting businesses, it was a bit of a rocky road at the start because, again, I was sort of opportunistic, but my heart was still in that question. It was like, what can I do to make a difference? What can I do to make a meaningful difference? And so we get to the point where we have our young son, Maxwell. And I'll never forget, when Max was born, and I know so many parents can relate to this, when you bring a child into the world, not only does your life change, but you start to ask bigger questions, like what can I do for this little person that I've brought into the world? How can I make the world a better place? And so I started to write that in my journal. I started to write, what can I do to impact Max's generation? What can I do to positively impact Max? And I was always inspired by a mentor that I was listening to at the time. And his name is Joel Solomon, and he wrote a book called The Clean Money Revolution. Yes. And the whole idea was, how can you take money as a resource and use that money to create a better world, to create a bright future, to take that money that was arguably made in a dirty way, on the backs of exploitation and extraction of the earth's resources and, stepping on people and, all the things that we know, all the problems in the world with corporate capture. And how do we take that money and how do we go from making it dirty to making it clean? And I was always inspired by that. I thought, how cool is that? Like if we used money as a vehicle for change, if we used it to create something meaningful. And so I started writing about this. How can I make an impact in my son's generation? How can I impact future generations? And Joel would talk about this idea of being a good ancestor. Mm-hmm. And this resonated with me at the time because I thought about just this whole journey of being a high achiever, making money, making a difference. It's like, okay, what else is there? And when he started talking about being a good ancestor, I was like, this is it. This is what I aspire to do. And he says, what if you could create something that would have such an impact that you may not even know the extent of the impact that you have created in your lifetime, but have faith that your impact, the work that you have created, is going to impact future generations. And so I was just inspired by that. I was like, I remember talking to you about it. Remember when I got the book, honey? And I was just like, this is it. This is what I want. I want to impact future generations. I want to make this kind of difference in the world. Maybe you can speak a little bit to that.
Well, I love it. And it sounds so amazing to hear you go right back to when you were a little girl and you had this curly blonde hair and you had a candy thing in your front yard and lemonade stands and selling stories door to door that really then morphed into your corporate career where you built this technology startup and you did very, very well and had an amazing, journey through that. But then you really left that corporate world to step into the world of entrepreneurship. And that's not for the faint of heart. But you knew as long as you stayed impact focused, that's where that you knew you could create something amazing. So back to the story with Maxwell, because it's an amazing story. Share with the listener what happened, because this is really the key point for this show.
So I had the eureka moment of my life, really, if I think back to it. It was absolutely profound what happened. So I was at the beach with Max, our young son, And we're just playing in the sand. And, I feel very passionate about having our kids in nature. I feel like that is the essential teachings. It's like be in nature and give them those opportunities. And so we're at the beach and we're playing in the sand, and he's 3 years old. And I'm looking at him and he's looking at me. And it's like his soul is speaking to me. And it's like he's saying to me, Mom, what else have you got for me? And I realized at that time that I was this gung-ho mother who was teaching him all the things I thought I was supposed to teach my child. ABCs, 1, 2, 3s, letters, numbers, colors. I was like, okay, we're gonna master all of these things. And I really realized in that moment when he was looking at me, and he's literally, his eyes are speaking to me. He's like, Mom, what else have you got for me?
Yeah.
And I thought, why is it that I haven't taught him about compassion or gratitude or, empathy? And so in that very moment, I got this idea to write down a list of alphabet words that would allow me to teach my son these heart-based values, these things that I realized as a woman in my 40s that I was still learning. And I think so many of the listeners, I know you can relate to this. I mean, we spend our time going through school, going through college, getting that job, and we spend so much of our time in our heads and not in our hearts. And my journey to the heart really started after having that success and realizing that there was more. And I started tuning more into my heart and realizing that there was just so much more to life. And so that's what I was thinking about in that very moment. It was like, I need to teach my son how to have compassion, how to have empathy. I need to teach him about gratitude. And so instead of teaching him A is for apple, B is for ball, C is for cat, I got this idea to teach him A is for abundance, B is for bravery, C is for compassion, E is for empathy, G is for gratitude. And so this list literally was like a stream of consciousness. And I wrote it down and I came home and I shared it with you. And Trevor looks at me and he's just like, this is unbelievable, Leesa. Like, you have just created the most profound idea. You've just rewritten the alphabet.
Yep.
So share a little more about what you were thinking at that moment.
Well, I love that. And it was really in that moment where, I could see that sparkle in your eye that literally knew that you were onto something big. And as you started to share the, letters with Max, and K is for kindness, and, O is for optimism, our little 3-year-old started reciting these words, and we'd go into explaining what these words really meant. And he got it. I mean, these little beings are so smart at that age of 2, 3, 5, 7, 10, where it was unbelievable. And as you started to share more of the words with me, and we, kind of mapped out what the whole alphabet would look like, this is where the amazing concept, an alphabet for humanity, was born, in terms of you creating a children's book. And so I want to just absolutely honor you and give you credit where credit's due. Why don't you share with the listener a little bit more about what happened from that point, and then share the visual that you've brought along to, everyone that's tuned in.
Oh, so funny. So I think back, it feels like a major motion picture when I think back to this whole experience. It was like life in high definition. So I'm sharing this alphabet with Trevor. He's going, this is unbelievable. You've written this new alphabet. It's a new alphabet for humanity. And I'm thinking, that's what it is. It's a new alphabet for humanity. And so I started sharing the concept with a couple of friends. And one of my girlfriends was like, this is amazing, Leesa. Like, you've got to do something with this. This is so cool. I want to teach my kid these words. And so then Trevor's like, look, you've already written a children's book. Why don't you write a book? Why don't you go and write a book and start talking about these concepts? And so we made that decision on that very day. We're like, okay, we're going to commit. Let's write a book. And so being an entrepreneur, I always say, like, if you've got an idea, the best thing you can do is really share that idea and really see if it has legs, especially if you're willing to start something, if you want to start a business or a venture. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to test this idea. So instead of going to a publisher and trying to shop the idea around, I was like, if this idea has legs, I want to find out right away. So we decided to launch a crowdfunding campaign.
Yes.
And so we recorded this little homegrown video in our toy room in the house. And it was like, Max was reciting the alphabet and I'm just like speaking from my heart. I was like, I want our kids to learn this. It's never too early for our children to learn how to be great humans. We should be teaching this from the very beginning. And so I'm speaking with conviction about this whole idea of creating a heart-centered movement around education for young children. And so sing my heart out on this little video. And so then we were like, okay, we've got to do this. So we launched the crowdfunding campaign. And lo and behold, within 48 hours,
Yes.
the campaign was completely funded. Now, at this point, I'm freaking out because I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, people like this idea. They've put money to this idea, to the point where we had somebody in our community, this I'll never forget this. He was someone who believed so passionately in what we were doing. He put $3,000 towards our campaign. And Trevor came home that day, and it was actually my birthday, and he came home and you were like, did you see that your campaign has been completely funded? And I'm thinking, that can't be possible, because I hadn't looked at it, just at that minute. And all of a sudden I looked and the campaign was funded and somebody had put $3,000. And I'm crying. I'm sitting here going, oh my gosh, like, who am I? Like, that was really where I'm thinking, there's nothing quite like lighting a fire under your butt.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we've got to do this now. People have put money to this. We've got to create this book. And so I spent that summer creating a new alphabet for humanity. And I remember going through those feelings of creative insecurity and like, what is this that I'm trying to create? And I remember you'd come off your coaching calls for the day and I'd be sitting there like I'd spent 20 hours on 2 sentences. Like, honey, what do you think about this sentence for gratitude? And what do you think about that sentence? And I remember just laboring over this. It was like, I wanted this to be a masterpiece. I wanted it to be the book that I wanted to read. It was like the culmination of my life's work. And so, we set out on that journey, and it was incredible when I think back to go through that roller coaster of feelings and emotions, right? The creative insecurity, the pressure of realizing, wow, people have put money towards this idea. You've got to make it happen. You've got to write this book. And so that's when I think back, like, I've had hundreds of people over the years ask me, like, how did you do it? How did you write this world-changing children's book? And I always tell them 2 things. I say to them, the truth is, I didn't write a children's book because I wanted to be a famous author. I wrote the book because I wanted to change the world. And that was the first thing. And I tell people all the time, if you want to write a children's book, you've got to commit to the bigger vision and idea for what the book is. You can't just get caught up in your own creative insecurity, because it's going to come up. You're going to get to a point where you're going to go, I don't even know if this has any legs. This sucks. My idea sucks, or this doesn't, you've got to get past that. You've got to move past the resistance. And so that was the summer that we did it. And we launched the book. I think it was like really from the idea to actually publishing, finding the printers, going to the offset printers and getting these books printed. It was a 6-month journey. And I remember just, it was a profound experience. It was a profound experience to come up with an idea out of the ether, okay? Like, this idea literally dropped into my brain. And I believe this wholeheartedly, that these ideas are out there in the collective consciousness. And sometimes we just need to be the tuning fork. We need to be that tuning signal. And all of a sudden the idea comes down. Now, this idea exists out there. I happened to download the idea. And I know that sounds a little bit out there, but I can tell you that even when I was writing the book, I wasn't even writing the book. Like, at some point in the journey of creating this body of work, I didn't even know what I was doing. It was just like this idea and this energy was streaming through me. And so here we are. So this is the new alphabet for humanity. And this is the book that we created. And again, the whole concept is, how do we create children that are great kids, right? Like, how do we actually get them heart connected from a very early age? And so, A is for abundance, B is for bravery, C is for compassion. We started this whole campaign. We decided to launch the video online, and it was nothing short of amazing what happened at that point. So maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Well, again, it was really amazing because it was moving so fast. And not only did you want to create this impact project with this book, but you wanted to create a movement, and you didn't want to just cheap out on it. I mean, we researched everything that we could on publishers. We wanted to use recycled paper. We wanted to use soy-based inks. I mean, you wanted to really create something that when it was put in the hands of kids, it was going to be amazing. But it was unbelievable to really fast forward to you starting to sell the book and then having people all over the planet go, this book belongs in every classroom. This book belongs in every Montessori. And so really from there, I'll let you tell how you've scaled it, and how many books you've sold to date. And just again, what a movement it all is, but all with the foundation of it coming from you wanting to change the world, you wanting to impact max, you wanting to deliver something that really now, Leesa, is your legacy. I mean, I don't know how long you're going to be here, but I'll bet your book, lives longer than you do, given, how much it's impacted classrooms all over this beautiful planet. So I'll let you pick it up from there.
I love how we're going back and forth. I mean, it's giving me so many ideas to really share with our listeners, because this was such a journey, and I will say that as an entrepreneur, so many of us, and I know a lot of high achieving listeners can relate to this. When you start a business, the whole idea is I want to make $1 million, right? That's kind of a goal, right? I want to make $1 million. I want to become a millionaire. I want to do that. That's kind of like a milestone. And I remember thinking that's what I wanted, right? That was kind of going to be the pinnacle of success as an entrepreneur, was to make $1 million in a year. And I remember writing that down at some point in my journey. And what happened that year when we launched this book was something that I could never have possibly imagined. So we launched this campaign online. We do the crowdfunding. We provide the books to the initial community. And then we decided, you know what, let's just put it out there. Now, this was actually the time when the world was shutting down. So people they were in their homes. There was a lot of people just at home. And we realized, wow, we've got an opportunity here to create a bright future to inspire people. And so we launched this campaign for a new alphabet for humanity. And what happened from there, and I'm going to share this, I'm going to preface this by saying what I'm sharing with you is not really to talk about like the number per se, but to realize, this is the impact that you can make. And so we launched the campaign, we launched the book online, we launched this little video of Max reciting the alphabet and me talking passionately about creating a bright future for our kids. And lo and behold, we ended up generating $1 million in sales in 5 months. And I remember that at that point, we were running so fast. We were selling out of books so quickly that we actually had to raise capital. So we went out to the marketplace, we raised some capital, we got more inventory. We were running so fast, we didn't even realize how much we were making at the time. Like, it just happened so quickly. And I remember when we reached the $1 million mark, and I thought it was going to feel different. I thought it was going to feel like, oh, this money, like, this is amazing, we've made $1 million. But I will tell you, the thing that made the biggest difference to me was the people that were writing into us at that time. Now, because we had literally launched something that had never been created before, people were writing into me almost every single day at that point. And they were thanking me. They were saying, Leesa, thank you so much for writing this book. This is what the world needs. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I had grandparents showing up at my door saying, I need 10 more books. I need a case of books. I had teachers writing to me saying, thank you so much for writing this book. We're now using this in our classrooms. We're now using this as part of our curriculum. And I will tell you that I was literally in tears almost every single day, just thinking about these stories and these things that started flooding through the inbox. It was just incredible. I had a woman writing to me saying that she had taught her autistic son how to read with my book. We had another lady that wrote into us, and I'll never forget this. This was unbelievable. She told me that her doctors had declared her daughter as legally blind. And this was when her daughter was a baby. And she realized that her daughter was in fact not blind because her daughter was picking up my book and looking at the book. And she could see the colors of the book. And she realized that her daughter was not blind because she was actually reading the book and she could see the colors. And I think back to these stories and the parents that have written to us saying, this is our kid's favorite book. This is the book that they pick on every book on the bookshelf. This is the book that they pick, right? And I'm sharing this with you because what I realized was there was a bigger picture here. This wasn't just about me writing a cutesy little book. It was like, okay, let's create something here that's going to impact and it's going to help other families. And I always tell people that I secretly wrote the book for the adults, actually, because I realized as a busy entrepreneur, sometimes we would get to the end of the day and we would ask ourselves a question like, what is it that we taught our kids? Like, what did we teach our kids today? Like, what was that meaningful thing that we got to teach the kids? And sometimes you get to the end of the day and you think you didn't teach them anything. So I realized, wow, if I could create a book that would teach something meaningful at the end of the day, teach those meaningful values, those ideas, those concepts, spark meaningful conversation. And that was the whole intention.
Yeah, absolutely powerful. And again, it all ties back to impact, right? So again, fast forward to today, I'm proud of you as you've now sold over 100,000 copies of the book worldwide. We're, developing it in other languages. I mean, it's just taken on a life of its own, but it's also got other people to start thinking about what they could do to impact the world. whether it's writing a children's book, starting a business, doing something in e-commerce, doing something for children, doing something for their aging parents. What you've done is really got the wheels turning for so many people that says, man, if she can take a concept and run with it and make that level of impact and that level of income, is it possible that I could do something as well? So what do you say to people that, either want to write a book, a children's book, start a business, and again, it goes back to what you talked about with the clean money revolution. Do it in a way that is empowering and it's absolutely adding more value than it's taking away. What do you say to people?
The thing I would say, most important thing I would say is that you are never too small to make a difference. You can create change in the world. That is the absolute truth. There's never been a greater time in human history than to really step into that identity, that you have the capacity to create that change. And that is the thing that I realized. I mean, if I left the earth tomorrow, I've said this to Trevor so many times. There's nothing else I need to do. I want to do more things. Trust me, I'm very ambitious. I have a lot of things I want to accomplish in this lifetime. But if I left the earth tomorrow, I would know that I made the difference I was here to make. And that feeling that I have inside my heart is something that I wish for everybody. I wish for every ambitious entrepreneur on the planet to have that feeling of fulfillment, that feeling that they have created something that has been so impactful and so rewarding, and that it is absolutely possible to do it. It's about having a bigger vision than just what you want for yourself. What is it that you want for the world? What is it that you wish you could change? And when we really step into that piece, we step into our higher self and realize that change that we wish to see in the world is something that we are here to create. We have been called to create. That is really where the change happens. And it's just amazing when I think back to the journey. I mean, we were divinely guided all the way through this. When we started to make a difference, when we started selling thousands and thousands of books, at one point we were selling 12,000 books a month. It was just crazy. They were flying off the shelves. And I said to Trevor, I said, what's interesting? We're using a lot of paper here, right? Like we're actually using a lot of paper. We're printing these books. And I was very passionate about using recycled paper, non-toxic inks. Like I wanted the creme de la creme of book quality. But then I realized, wait a minute, we're actually taking from the earth. So what if we were to put back into the earth? So I got this idea. I was like, what about for every book that we sell, we plant a tree?
Yes.
Now, the reality is, I believe that is why we became successful, because we had a vision that was bigger than just the book. We had a vision for creating a bright future, and we wanted to make a meaningful difference. We started planting a tree for every book that we sold. And we accidentally started a children's education company out of this. I mean, it was really once we started getting that initial feedback from the schools and the educators, and we were like, okay, we've got to do more with this. So the next year after I wrote the book was actually the harder work, which was I ended up creating an entire curriculum for schools. And that was something that I was so excited about because I thought this is where we create systems change, which was really what was in my heart to begin with. I wanted to create systems change in education. I wanted to be part of this new paradigm of education, the future of education. And so we created this curriculum and started this impact company and turned it into a multi-million-dollar company. Now, I say that, I speak to the multi-million-dollar piece because I want entrepreneurs to know that when you have a vision like this is how you turn it into a successful business. The money becomes a vehicle for creating the change in the world that you want to see. And we're very early on in this journey, honey. I mean, we started this business, 4.5 years ago? We're just getting started. And I will tell you, it's been a roller coaster. We've had ups and downs, and I keep true to the vision. I realize that we're here in this business, in this venture for the long game. It's not about making a ton of money really fast and then flashing our, Ferrari at the end of it. That is not what we're here to do. We're here to make a difference. We're here to leave a legacy, and we're here to create an impact that we are not going to see in our lifetimes. We're not going to see the full extent, but we will see it in future generations. And I want to share something really fun that happened. Again, this goes back to the magic of intention as well. So you probably remember at the beginning of the episode, I was saying that I wrote that I wanted to impact future generations. Now, one of the things that blew my mind when this really took off was that people started to write to me and they said to me, Leesa, this book is going to be handed down to future generations. And I remember like Trevor would come off work and he's like, why are you crying again? And I'm like, oh my gosh, you would not believe this. They just said that, and it's like, who am I to have done this? Who am I to have created this, right? I'm not an educator. I don't even have a degree in education. And that just comes back to what's in your heart is there for a reason. What you are here to do has been planted in your heart, that vision, that desire, that seed, that is there for a reason. And you got to trust it, right? And I look back and I go, I wish I would have trusted it because I was kind of terrified at the time, right? And now I look back and I go, no, that was all divine guidance. We were meant to have this experience. I'd love for you to share more about the impact we've made and how you feel about this. Like what are your feelings about this impact? Like how does it feel in your heart to have made the difference we've made?
Well, first off, I'm just so proud of you. I mean, you really did birth this, right? Through divine whatever. And again, I think that if you could do it, there's an opportunity for other people to follow in your footsteps. And whether you create a product or a service, or you do it sooner or you do it later, you just got to remember that God has given all of us what we call creative codes. That is, we all have the ability to create. We've all got the ability to dream, to think, right? And sometimes it might take a few months or a few years, but I think we're all entrepreneurs at heart. In fact, I always like to tell my clients who are out there impacting the world in real estate, in finance, in, education, in healthcare, in so many powerful ways that when I say we're all entrepreneurs at heart, it wasn't until the Industrial Revolution really that we started to go work for other people, right? People started to go work in factories and stores and butcher shops. But prior to that, we were all farmers, we were all bakers. We, lived off the land. And so I'd like people to kind of take a step back to what our ancestors did and what they did to make their lives, their families' lives, their communities' lives even better. And now fast forward to today where you can have the internet, this little thing that's allowing this podcast to be heard around the world, be the bridge or conduit to getting your idea out to more people. So just like you've done a phenomenal job, my hope for this show is that it inspires somebody to follow in Leesa's footsteps, to really want to get up every morning and ask, how can I make a meaningful difference to people and the planet? And again, where focus goes, we always say energy flows. And I'm telling you, there are ideas just waiting to drop in and waiting to be birthed, just like you've done. So again, with that said, where can people find the book? I mean, if people really want to get their hands on a copy, or even better yet, share copies with their family and friends, how can people find the book?
Okay, so here is a new alphabet for humanity. And for those of you who are interested and would love to support our mission, to create a bright future, I encourage you to visit our website, alphabetforhumanity.com. And we're going to talk more in future episodes about the impact that we're extending. We're creating a new campaign called our Give a Book, Change a Life campaign. Very excited about that. And, I really just want to leave the listeners with this idea that when you plant a seed for the future that you want to create for your children, for their children, for future generations, just know in your heart that anything is truly possible.
Well, thank you, Leesa. And that brings us to our 3 to Thrive, because at every end of the episode, we want to empower the listener with 3 thought-provoking questions. And I am excited for these 3 because they're powerful. And let's throw it over to you for the first one.
I think the first question is, if there's anything in the world that you wish you could change, what would it be? So just start journaling on that question. What is the change that you want to create? What is the change that you want to see? I know for myself, I wanted to create systems change in education. That was my original idea. And this idea has like I said, just turned into something beyond my wildest dreams. Start asking yourself that question. What is the change I wish to see in the world?
I love that one. Question number 2.
Question number 2 is, how can you build your business in such a way that it becomes that vehicle for change? So how can you bake impact into your business model, right? And so I'll be talking about this in future episodes. I'm going to be giving some real practical ways and ideas for you to be able to do this for yourself. But just start asking that question, how can I make a bigger difference with what I'm doing right now? How can I expand my impact in my current business, in my current career? Just start journaling on that question as well.
I love it. And I'll take question number 3 because it's really, what would you need to do to start dreaming again? I mean, when you really think about it, we're all conscious creators. And oftentimes, people are thinking, why shoot for the moon when you can shoot for the stars? Because that's where the big dreams live. The big dreams are out there. And again, it doesn't matter if you're, new to the business you're in or you're an expert in the business you're in. It's about creating something that's even bigger and better, stronger, more impactful. And that's really what I want you to do is dream, really step into that core belief like you did when you were a little girl or when you were a little boy, that anything was possible. So that'll do it for today's show. I want to thank you for sharing that story. I know you did a lot of work to get to this place. And I also believe that the future is absolutely bright for this project and anyone else who wants to support it. Any final thoughts before we, wrap today?
I just want to thank our listeners for tuning in and wish you peace and love and palm trees.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you for joining us today at Coaching by the Beach. If this episode helps you to see your path to more success, more wealth, freedom, and fulfillment, we'd love your support.
Remember to subscribe on your favorite platform.
Leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
And don't let your journey stop here. Connect with us in our community of like-minded achievers on all social platforms at Coaching by the Beach.
We're excited to continue exploring this path to freedom with you.